Welcome, everyone, to episode number 21 of the Citadel of HYPE Podcast. Today, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Gemma. How are you doing today, Gemma?
I'm doing very well. I'm quite tired. I've been out in the sun all day. I love the sun, but it doesn't love me. So, yeah, it's getting to me a bit. I'm a little bit heat stroked, but I'm happy to be here. And happy birthday. Happy name day to you, Kyle.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I thought it would be kind of the perfect time to really delve into. I think we both really love this character, Gemma, and he's my personal favorite character. To talk about Sandor Clegane, it is my birthday, and I felt like, you know what, it's my party, and I'll do what I want to. Instead of cry if I want to, we'll do what we want to. We're going to talk about Sandor Clegane today, and it's going to be really fun. We're going to talk about kind of his beginnings and where he's going to end up. So, Gemma, where do you think George R.R. Martin is going with Sandor Clegane? Is he trying to give us that anti-knight feel? Is he kind of trying to break the trope of this fantasy knight that we see and talked about?
Right. Okay. Sandor Clegane. Obviously, you've picked this character for discussion today, being your favorite character. For me, Sandor Clegane, he's like the Punisher of Westeros. And I know anybody that's into Marvel will know where I'm going with that. But let's just rein this back. And when I first started reading The Song of Ice and Fire, for me, Sandor Clegane. Hi, everybody in the chat. Yeah, I'm not purple.
I started the second week without Gemma being purple. People are like so surprised about it. Yeah, Gemma was actually not purple last week, believe it or not. And by the way, this is the first of our double header. We didn't do a bonus Patreon podcast, but we decided we would do a live stream tonight and tomorrow. We're doing Winds of Winter one. But Gemma, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, where was I? Yeah, you guys distracted me in the chat. We'll get to you guys in a minute. Sandor Clegane. Yeah, for me, he came across very much as like an engine to forward Sansa's storyline, because obviously throughout that first book, Sansa is a POV character. Sandor Clegane obviously is not. So obviously we've got this idealistic, naive Sansa that loves the knights and the handsome boys, and she gets all gooey over Loras giving her the rose, and it's all this chivalry and knights and things. And then we've got this Sandor Clegane on the side being this kind of anti-knight thing. And obviously towards the end of the first book, Sansa's view of the world has changed quite a lot, and a lot of that has got to do with Sandor. But as the story progressed, Sandor became more of a character within his own right, rather than merely something to propel somebody else's arc forward, which was amazing. And obviously he's a huge fan favorite for the show, and I think that's one of the reasons why they've continued with his character even more so beyond the whole gravedigger, which is a theory still, but I love the way that was nodded to in season 7 for Sandor. That was a gorgeous moment for us book readers, wasn't it, Kyle?
Yeah, and it was such a powerful moment because we saw the direct consequence of something that Sandor affected. And Sandor, they stole money from those people, and those people were not people that were built to survive the winter that was coming to Westeros. So, like we were talking just before we went on air, Gemma, Sandor Clegane is kind of one of the moral heartbeats of the Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones. He's one of the most honest characters, and we're gonna get more into that. But the chat is going crazy right now. I know some of you are still out there watching Lucifer Means Lightburner and Indie Geek, and I'm sure some of you will come over. But let's get to the chat, Gem. We have Mia of Ice and Fire. It's also her birthday today. Happy birthday to you, Mia. I'm really excited to go visit you in Orlando. Booked my flight, so that's awesome. We have Jennifer, Sherry McLean. We have Bianca Funk, Chrissy of Oldstone, JR Rally, Gemma. You want to name some other ones in the chat? Oh, we have Urtach Altanaz in the chat, Gemma.
I'm glad you said that. You pronounced that far better than I would have. Yeah, happy name day, Mia. How amazing that you both have a birthday on the same day. We've got John St. Baptiste. It's wonderful to see you. Chrissy of Oldstone, Sheree McLean, Karen Richmond, the Prince That Wasn't Promised, Wesley Mons, Mama Oga, all the familiar faces, which is wonderful, and a couple of new ones. Sometimes, I'm not going to lie, sometimes I do sneak into the participants and just have a look at who's lurking. I can see you.
I can see you. Yeah, we've actually had quite a few new people join our community. So if you are watching out there and you just like to watch, I'm like that in some streams. Some streams I just like to watch. I'll go on Twitch sometimes or on YouTube, and I'll just hang out. And sometimes it can kind of be distracting if me and Gemma are in chat and kind of take away from the conversation. So sometimes I just like to watch you guys get all excited and have amazing conversations with each other. Speaking, we got Chrissy Oldstone in the chat. She actually won the t-shirt giveaway. And speaking of Sansa, everyone, I would like to announce that it is official. The hashtag Sansa Forever t-shirt is coming next Thursday.
Yes. I need that t-shirt.
We've already got like 5 or 6 pre-orders. So you guys got to let me know if you want some because they're going super fast. And we also decided the 2 winners of the other t-shirts were What Is Hype May Never Die. And Blaze Manga is going to be designing that. It's, oh my God, you guys, it's so awesome. And I don't want to reveal anything because we're actually going to be doing a live stream release for the new t-shirts next week. And we're also doing I Drink and I Hype things. So those are the new t-shirts that are coming next week.
Hashtag Sansa Forever. I have to wear this t-shirt all the time.
Yeah, we already got so you guys let me know if you guys do want more t-shirts. I'm completely revamping the Azor Hype online merchandise store. We're still going to have all the old designs, but we're going to be putting up the new designs next week. And Blaze Manga is actually going to come on the channel next week, and we're going to talk about kind of the process of how we create new art and branding and all that stuff on the channel. So that's going to be really fun. And I know John St. Baptiste, he's already ordered one for Talamasca Dan, who couldn't be here in the chat right now. But but back to the conversation. Original David Adams, we got Chrissy Oldstone, Nicola, Urtach, Kyle, John St. Baptiste. Thank you so much for all the birthday wishes, and we'll probably thank you some more after. Carol Brown, of course. But back to the conversation, Sansa, yeah, Sansa is an absolutely huge influence on Sandor Clegane. And we've talked about this before, Gemma. Sandor having a sister and possibly Gregor having an interaction in that scenario. We don't know too much about it, but it's kind of hinted at that Gregor could have taken out his rage on another sibling.
Yeah, absolutely. That does seem to be implied, doesn't it? There was a Clegane sister who died under unexplained circumstances, and a lot of people attribute Sandor's affection, that little soft spot that he seems to have for the Stark sisters, on this sister that he once had. We don't even know what she was called. We know that she's died. We don't know what the relationships were like. We really don't know much.
I had someone suggest that it was Brienne. I'm like, oh my God, guys, we really need the Winds of Winter, which is why we're going to discuss it tomorrow on Gemma's channel. But I mean, I think that, obviously what me and Gemma are trying to say is that Sandor does have this empathetic side of him, despite his outside demeanor. And Gemma, I think we should kind of segue into this. Obviously, we're going to talk about Sandor being kind of an anti-knight, and we were talking about comparison with Jaime Lannister being described as golden and beautiful and handsome and agile, and basically he has nothing that's going wrong for him. He's in a royal family. He's got it all going on. Then we have Sandor, who's super huge. He's a massive guy. Obviously, not the best looking guy because of his disfigurement. Some people might not care about that, but obviously in a place like Westeros, that's going to be a huge factor. We see how it impacts characters like Tyrion and other characters. So, Gemma, can we talk about knights and Sandor's kind of disdain for that?
Yeah, this is the thing that is just so gorgeous about Sandor Clegane, isn't it? He's this utter flat refusal to be called a knight, to be called a sir. And I've maintained this throughout my chapter unravelings. Anybody that watches these regularly will know that I say this a lot. One of the major themes that runs throughout this entire series is the difference between those that can see and those that cannot see. Catelyn Stark, for example, struggles to see the harsh realities, the hard truths. Sansa is learning, but it's a painfully slow process. Arya is showing that she can see. Tyrion teaches Jon to see, but Sandor is established from the get-go as a character that acknowledges and can see these hard truths. And it's made for quite a bitter and resentful personality in him, but also one that can see through this facade. He can see past the flowing white cloaks and the golden hair and the shiny armor, and he can see what these men are really like. And we begin to see them alongside Sansa in her mistreatment. Like when Joffrey wants to strike her, he gets Meryn Trant to do it for him. And is that really knightly? But they don't care. They'll just do what Joffrey commands, you know?
Yeah,
It is interesting.
Deep-seated resentment for knights.
Yeah, it's really interesting that Joffrey not once does he ask the Hound to strike Sansa for him. And I do wonder if Joffrey on some level knew that Sandor would not have said yes. That's just a theory.
You know, there's spare me your empty little compliments, girl. And you, sirs, I am no knight. I spit on them and their vows. So there's so many different moments like that. And I'm wondering, like you said, if Joffrey kind of had a wind of that, you know,
yeah,
maybe because obviously later on we see him say, "Fuck the king." He's like, "I'm out. More wine. If you don't give me wine, I'm literally heading out of here. People are on fire. Okay, I hate fire." And that's kind of like, I don't think there's much for me here. People are on fire. The king is an idiot boy, and there's no one that's doing their jobs properly. So
I've got a request for everybody in the chat because, and we said this just before we went live online, didn't we, Kyle? The Hound arguably has some of the best quotes / one-liners in the entire series, and unfortunately for monetization and banning reasons on YouTube, they do have rules and regulations. Unfortunately, there's so many of these quotes that we can't say, but you can in the chat. You can go for it. I want to know what your favorite Sandor Clegane quotes are, and I want to Google it if you need to get the exact quote, but I'd just love to see some of these, and we'll read out what we can. Okay.
I have a feeling I know what the number one. I mean, well, okay. What's your favorite scene with Sandor, though? Okay, actually, we'll talk about this after we see what people are saying in the chat.
Oh, well, while we're waiting for them to come through, because there is a little bit of a delay, my favorite scene for Sandor Clegane is, and this kind of goes against my book snobbery. Oh, there's a lot of those ones. Yeah, we can't say that one, Karen Richmond. And we can't say that one, Kyle Dubs.
Yeah, or
that one, William Rice. Or that
the best
one.
swordsman in the world didn't have a sword. I bet his hair was greasier than Joffrey's.
We've had about 8 quotes now, none of which we can repeat, which is hilarious.
Only cunts name swords. How is John McGlynn not a moderator? He's awesome. I mean, he stands for everything that is right about hype and love. Thanks for the donation, John St. Baptiste. Really appreciate that. Choo choo. Oh, Gemma, which ones can we say?
WTF salami.
Someone bring me a drink. F the water. Bring me more wine.
There's one, Karen Richmond. Thank you. Tougher girls than you have tried to kill me, and that leads directly into my favorite scene. And this goes against.
The swordsman in the world didn't have a sword.
Yeah. This goes against my book snobbery because this is not even in the books. This was a change for the show, but that fight between the Hound and Brienne, wow, that was just next level. That was incredible.
That was a different, like, often we talk about how things, like, things that we miss that aren't in the show. Lady Stoneheart for me is something that I wish we could have seen, because I think it's going to have some sort of payoff in the books, and that's something that's going to have a ripple effect. Obviously, George has spoken about that, but like this is one of these moments, a change they have made for the better, when I was like, whoa, I wish we could imagine this being described by George in the books. That would have been like next level. So for us to be able to see that, and their interaction too, safety, what's that, you dumb bitch? like you know what I mean? And it displays Sandor's true honesty. And that's what I love so much about him. And I think that's kind of where we're gonna go with him at the end, that he is one of the moral heartbeats of honesty within Song of Ice and Fire.
We've got an edit from Kyle Dubs. Of course you named your sword. Lots of people name their swords. Lots of punts. Is that better, Gemma? It's not me. I have no issue with swearing. I have no issue with that C word either. I'm English. We use that endearingly, but
in North America, that word, you call a woman that, you're getting beat up. Like, that's
if
real
I call a woman that, she's my best friend. That's generally how it works in England.
It's funny the difference between North America. I mean, like, we kind of have some of the same values, you would say, but then again, that specific word is a no-no. That's like the worst word you can say to someone, or especially a woman.
John St. Baptiste, that is a good one. You're a talker. That is a good one.
You're a talker, and talkers make me thirsty. I can't do impersonations, everyone.
No, you really can't. You need to never do that ever.
Hello, my name is Gemma Star.
Like I've literally never said that ever. Just for the
So what is the best one-liner from Sandor Clegane then, Gemma? Is it your talk? Because bring me those chickens.
For me, chickens. I know you love the chickens one. I think that's a given. Anybody that's been a subscriber to you for a long time will understand why the chickens reference is so close to your heart. But for me, it's the naming of the swords ones, because it's just so hilarious, because obviously we've got this series where everybody's running around naming these swords, and we've got these prophesized swords and these amazing stories, and then he just comes in and basically just shuts that down. They're all just a bunch of idiots,
Oh my goodness, the donation train has started here. Nancy T, happy birthday to the hypest guy on YouTube. Love y'all. Nancy T, we had an absolute we actually had dinner on Gemma's birthday.
We did. And I've made one of my eggs, Nancy. Look. I did it.
Oh wow, Gemma.
I've got 2 more to do.
Gemma did something useful. Kidding. Kidding. This is how me and Gemma's relationship works, everyone, by the way. Take the piss out of each other, as Gemma would say. Take the piss. We also have another one from Maura Lee. She says, $20, you both rock. And thank you so much, Maura Lee, who's actually a newest member on the Hype Hall of Fame. There's still more coming in the chat. That's how many good one-liners there is.
You guys have reminded me, like Kyle said, just how many there are. It's me, the best swordsman ever lived, didn't have a sword. Yes.
Oh, Carol Brown is a good one. Behind every bad idea is a Lannister gun. Seriously. And a lot of these aren't in the books, so as much as we people like to bash D&D, straight up though, the comedy from Sandor Clegane's angle is like A+ for me. Especially in a show that has so many dark elements. I mean, pondering death and people taking psychedelics and zombies and dragons, like killing people. That's pretty serious stuff, So.
Yeah, and there are 3 noteworthy changes that the show made that I really adored, that I really appreciated and loved. And one of them was the Hound and Brienne, their fight. I mean, because obviously Brienne's storyline in the books just wouldn't even lend itself to that occurring at the, but actually how that goes down in the books is it's a bit lamer, really. You know, to be honest, it's kind of he basically is very drunk and he gets wounded and it goes septic, and it's far less salubrious. The other two are Hardhome and the fight between Jaime Lannister and Ned Stark. Those were the three moments that I really am grateful that they did make the changes that they did.
Yeah, I mean, there's really so much appreciation for the humor of Sandor, and you know, even small little lines like later, like last season, you know, when they're at Castle Black, they're in the Castle Black holding cells, and everybody's kind of whinging. He's like, "Get on with it already! Are we just going on our mission?" You know what I mean? Like, he's just like, "Let's cut straight to the point. Let's do things. Let's just not have this like politicking." And that's something that he obviously observed in King's Landing. So Sandor having disdain for small talk as well.
Yeah, they are still coming in. These quotes are still, this is incredible. Michael Smith said that Bronn would probably be close to the amount of one-liners as the Hound. I agree, yeah. And It's Me has said, and I completely agree with this one as well, he's just an excellent actor. Rory McCann is exceptional at what he does. He is really, really good. He was on an advert for porridge oats, for Scottish porridge oats back in the day. I remember him. This is a bit of English UK memorabilia, kind of nostalgia. That's the word, nostalgia.
So and an obvious thing that we have to point out, Gemma, in all seriousness, getting back to the discussion, a point that we have to make is Sandor has not only hated his brother, but he has feared him. And I think that obviously a huge part of the Hound's life is having to deal with this moment that completely changed his life. And he hasn't moved on from that. And we see a lot of characters that have these moments that have changed them, and they can't quite get past that point into transforming into someone else. And we're kind of seeing that now. Obviously, the progression of his arc, we're seeing him transform into a different person, someone that is more knightly, I guess we could say. I like to think of Sandor as more of an anti-knight, even though he has true knight qualities to himself. But I think that we obviously have to focus on this big thing, Gemma, his brother. This is kind of an obstacle in his life that he has to deal with.
Clegane Bowl. That's what you're talking about, isn't it? Clegane Bowl. We have to.
But I mean, we have a different thought on this, Gemma. You don't think he's coming back in the books, and I think it's happening in both, and you think it's definitely happening in the show, as I do. So
I think they have to do Clegane Bowl in the show. They have to. I mean, they've already had the weigh-ins. You know who's coming for you. You've always known. You know, they've literally had the weigh-in. So they've got to do that. I would be so annoyed if that was just a teaser. A book Hound, I think that may remain in the realms of Gravedigger theory. I think perhaps they made him more of a thing in the show because everybody just loves him. He's a fan favorite. He's great. He's Rory McCann's brilliant. And I think there is room in the story for the Hound, for that person as a character. Yeah, but I mean, it's Robert Strong in the books. It's clearly still the Mountain in the show, and this is the way I see it going down. I see Jaime being killed by the Mountain. I see Jaime killing Cersei and then immediately being killed by the Mountain, and then I see the Mountain immediately being killed by Sandor Clegane. This is just going to be a bloodbath. But that's the way I see it going down in season 8.
Remember this part from the books, Gemma. You know, when Sandor was thinking about killing Gregor, he's like, Sandor's mouth twitched. Caught you. My brother caught you. That made him laugh. A sour sound, part rumble and part snarl. Gregor never knew what he had. Did he? He couldn't have. Or he would have dragged you back kicking and screaming to King's Landing and dumped you in Cersei's lap. Oh, that's bloody sweet. I'll be sure to tell him that before I cut his heart out. So, you know, and then Arya's kind of obviously like, playing on that. And then even the elder brother, Gemma, talked about Sandor's obsession with Gregor. When other men dream of love or wealth or glory, this man, Sandor Clegane, dreamed of slaying his own brother, a sin so terrible it makes me shudder just to speak of it. Yet that was the bread that nourished him, the fuel that kept his fires burning. Ignoble it was, the hope of seeking his brother's blood upon his blade, all this sad and angry creature lived for. So it's something that's continuing. Oh, they're coming for me. I don't know if you can hear the sirens in the background.
Big girl in the chat's just come up with something incredible. She said, I see the mountain about to kill the hound. So this is Clegane ball going down. The mountain's got the upper hand. He's winning. And then Arya steps in and takes the mountain out. That is a theory I could get on board with. I'd love to see that.
I can see that too. Gemma, do you perhaps see maybe a small group of people sneaking into King's Landing? Because I think there's going to be multiple battles going down in King's Landing. I think obviously we're going to have Cersei probably shutting the gates to King's Landing, much like Mad King Aerys Targaryen did. And Arya obviously saw the interaction between Varys and Illyrio very early on, or at least early on in season 1. And then obviously Tyrion knows kind of how to get in there. So we could possibly see someone like Jaime, Brienne, Sandor, and Arya go in there. And it would be kind of poetic if Sandor and Arya were both fighting the mountain, because that would probably make it easier to take out a giant unkillable zombie guy who could probably slice you in half real easily. But I also heard some pretty sweet theories about Arya taking on the mountain by herself after Sandor is injured, and then her just finishing the job straight up, like this kind of David versus Goliath thing, like kind of like this Oberyn situation, just finishing the job, actually doing it instead of like you say her name, all that kind of stuff. And then her actually taking the name off her list, which is kind of ironic.
That's the thing. Obviously, Sandor has got beef with his brother. He wants to kill him, but Sandor Clegane is by far the only person in Westeros that wants to be the one to finish off the mountain. I mean, obviously, like you said, he's on Arya's list, but the mountain himself, he's been, he's not a good guy, to say the least. There's the Dornish have got an issue with him. Pretty much everybody in the Riverlands right now has got serious issue with what he was doing during the War of the Five Kings, or the pillaging, and he just left the Riverlands in a smoking ruin in his wake. And this was on the orders of Tywin Lannister, but it was still very much the mountain that did it, and everybody's aware of this. He's pretty much the only one left from that group now, like Vargo, Houghton, Polliver, the Tickler, they're all gone. So really, there's only the mountain left. And yes, he was poisoned by Oberyn, and he's become this bizarre undead zombie mountain thing. But yeah, I mean, can you see a situation where Sandor kind of lets him live? Because he sees what he's become, and he actually decides that this is a fate worse than death.
I think he's going to burn his head with fire, much like his face was burned. I think it's going to be, like history repeating itself. And I don't think he'll let it go on, because I think that Sandor wants to find peace in his life, and he found some of that when he was with, obviously, in the books he still has that, but in the show, Brother Ray ended up getting killed by rogue forces. But I can't see that. I think it has to be final. I think he's an abomination. He's this walking zombie, this giant zombie, and I think that has to get dealt with. There's a really interesting comment in the chat from Lavina Shadow, or Laving Shadow Lavina, a good friend of the channel's. I can't see it. I can see it another way. Sandor saves Arya almost like payback for letting him live. That's pretty interesting.
Gift of mercy, yeah. There's another really interesting comment. Funny Steve or the Mountain begs Sandor to kill him. Which again, this is perhaps this twist on the expected, isn't it? This is what Game of Thrones does: is we have these expectations and they are subverted. So that would be a lovely subversion if it came to the crunch, and because obviously we haven't heard the Mountain speak for a long time. We're not even sure if he can. Qyburn did say that he'd taken a vow of silence until Cersei's enemies were all defeated, if you remember, when she'd completed her walk of shame. So maybe the only thing that we will hear him say is, kill me, please.
I'm just wondering, like, I mean, it's such an interesting thing to talk about, Gemma. What is his level of consciousness?
Yeah.
Like, you know, we don't really know that. Like, there's obviously the question of, is he being controlled? Like, is he being given codes like the Winter Soldier? You know what I mean? Kind of like that, like some sort of magic that is actually science that Qyburn has found how to use. There's so many different ways we can kind of approach it. I don't see him speak it. I don't think he's going to speak personally. I think that I mean, I would be shocked by that. It would be interesting. I just don't know if it's going to come to that. I mean, I just think that, you know, obviously to get to Cersei is going to be a huge problem. They obviously have to go through the Mountain, and Sandor is such a huge part of that. And you know, Jaime going to Winterfell, if he does do that in the books, that would be quite interesting too. But obviously in the show, Jaime is going to let them know that Cersei is not going to support them. And I think I mean, I think Winterfell is going to get overrun. They're going to have to probably flee south and get to King's Landing and try to evacuate people, because if the Night King gets a hold of all of those bodies, good luck. Like, they're done, right? I mean, like, he can just continue all the way down to Dorne if he wants, I guess. I don't know if that's possible, but.
Okay, I've got a question for you, Kyle. We kind of got a little bit sidetracked with the Mountain there, but I mean, that is definitely very much part of Sandor Clegane's story. But of Sandor Clegane himself, do you think he's going to live out this story? And I'm talking about the show here. And if so, how will he end up? And if not, how will he die? And by whose hand?
Before, I was 100% sold on him not surviving the series. But I'm kind of 50-50 on it now. I don't. He's a crippled bastards and broken thing, you know. Like, I could possibly see him living out a life at Winterfell or something like that, as like helping rebuild Winterfell, much like he was helping Brother Ray, you know. But, you know, Arya could take off, and, you know, I mean, Brienne is kind of close to Sansa, and I see Brienne surviving the whole series. So what's left for him is my question. So it's really hard for me to say. I think it would be really poetic if, you know, obviously he got mortally wounded in the Clegane Bowl. Arya takes out the Mountain, and then Arya gives him the gift of death this time. I think that's the most likely scenario what's going to happen. But I could actually see him surviving in some other scenarios. Like, I've heard some really, really interesting thoughts on ways that it could play out. So
we've got some really mixed.
It's hard.
Yeah, the chat's really divided over this one as well. It's Me says, I wish, but no. Carol Brown, hi Carol. Sandor will make it. Loving Shadow, I hope he lives. That's a little non-committal. William Rice, the Hound is destined to live because he's broken. What do the rest of you guys think? Live or die? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Just like they used to do in the Colosseum. And if you think he will die, by whose hand? I mean, I can't see him living, but I do think that he will sacrifice himself for either Sansa or Arya, probably more likely Sansa, in some way, shape, or form. I'd like to think that his death was honorable, because that would go with his anti-knight stance, and actually, in that same breath, really being the truest knight, perhaps, in the Seven Kingdoms, arguably. We've got a 50-50. The Hound is 50-50. People are really divided about this one, aren't they, Kyle?
like I said before, Gemma, like I was convinced before that he was destined to die in the Clegane Bowl, and but like him and the Mountain would take out each other, and Arya would give him the gift of death. But I'm not so sure anymore. It's going to be really interesting because I think he's going to play a really big part in the end game. Think about how many good fighters are left in the series. He's someone that could possibly wield a Valyrian steel blade, something like Heartsbane. Like that's a big sword. John's not a big guy, or Kit Harington isn't, and John's not described as being a huge guy in the books.
No.
We obviously know that he has long claw. Samuel Tarly, he's not proficient with a sword. Davos is not really a fighter. Daenerys, can she wield a blade? I mean, she can get trained. I mean, we don't really. I mean, they can
absolutely zero evidence to suggest that she can.
I mean, they could do. I mean, they could do something in the show and make it appear, but people would really criticize that, I think. But obviously she's bloodline of Aegon the Conqueror, and Aegon's sister wives. They had swords, and they were they were really, really good in battle. So it's really interesting to me, and I think that obviously it all boils down to the Stark girls again, Gemma. I think that he's kind of their protector. He's kind of their White Knight, even though he hates the White Knight, and that's what's so kind of ironic about it, is that George is putting him there right in their last installments. Has been looking for this White Knight, and he's kind of everything that a White Knight isn't. He's this anti-knight, but he stands for kind of these northern values, honestly, honesty and honor.
William Rice says Dany has dragons, let's not give her a sword.
I knew some people wouldn't like that, and I know there's a lot of Dany haters out there, but it seems to be pretty split. There's actually a lot of people that think he survives, Gemma, and I'm not hating on that at all. I just personally, I don't know. I would like him to survive, but I just think poetically his story is going to be very much like Jaime's, and I think they're both going to die.
Yeah, I think the general premise in the chat is that there is a hope that he will live, but then the other side of that is how sad people will be. Like Carl Dubs has said, I will be utterly sad if Sandor dies. I can't see the Hound making it all the way to the end, but he needs to die a true knight, even though he will refuse to be officially a true knight. He needs a knight's death, but a proper knight, that like the songs that Sansa used to listen to before she went to King's Landing and had all of her hopes and dreams crushed. She needs to be like Florian the Fool and John Coyle and all of the chivalrous, gorgeous, beautiful men that she grew up believing in. What were her parents thinking? I mean, how sheltered was that girl? I mean, really? That's a completely different topic.
The one thing that kind of confirms the Clegane Bowl for me too is that they didn't fight at the tourney of Harrenhal, and even Bran's vision for me, this specific vision right here. One shadow was dark as ash with terrible face of a hound. Another was armored like the sun, golden and beautiful. Over both of them loomed a giant in armor made of stone. When he opened his visor, there was nothing inside but darkness and thick black blood. Obviously, when last season when it was revealed, you saw his face. It was all gross and purple and disgusting, and obviously golden and beautiful like the sun. That can be interpreted in different ways. Obviously, House Martell's sigil is a sun with a spear in it. But that doesn't really describe Oberyn. That actually describes Jaime Lannister, and I actually think that Jaime and the Hound are both going to be part of the Clegane Bowl with Arya and Brienne. There's going to be some sort of mishmash that goes on there. But do you think the Clegane Bowl is going to go down the show? I think it's going to go down. I think we have to see it.
It has to, doesn't it? Like I said, they had the way in. I mean, that would just be such a tease if they didn't. I mean, I know we keep saying we've got so little time, there's only 6 episodes left, blah, blah, blah. But we've got to see some stuff going down in those 6 episodes, and if we're going to be selective about this process, we can afford a couple of minutes on Clegane Bowl. I think
a couple of minutes? I think, I don't really have any inside information. We have a little bit, but we're going to be getting some longer episodes, people. Just remember that. And I think And, you know, it's funny. Sophie Turner was talking the other day about some of the battle sequences in season 8, and she said they're going to blow our minds. I actually think that the Clegane Bowl is going to be just insane. And I think that I think they really got to do that one justice, especially in the show. Like we said, we both don't know if it happened in the books. I kind of like the Gravedigger thing and Sandor finding peace in some way, but in the show, it's got to go down. I think that we both. So, Gemma, let's give a prediction, both of us, a final prediction for Sandor, and then let's take some questions from the chat. We got about 15 minutes before I got to head out and go see Ant-Man and Wasp tonight. And I'm actually going to be dropping, after I watch the movie tonight, a theory video tomorrow morning. So that's going to be pretty interesting on Ant-Man and Wasp. But Gemma, final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
Like, kind of give us a juicy theory on Sandor, kind of on his end game.
I don't really have anything juicy. Okay, you've disrupted my flow. Where was I? Book Sandor. I think he's going to remain a theory, the Gravedigger theory. I think that's going to be left in that realms of never completely confirmed, but we all kind of know. Show Sandor, I believe, is going to have a much bigger role. I think he will have a big, noteworthy presence in season 8. I think his storyline is very much tied up now with, as we've said, the Stark sisters, but it's also tied up with Brienne. It's also tied up with Beric and all, you know, because the Hound's kind of, he's kind of like this force that's kind of pulled a lot of these elements together right now, at least in the show. He's one of the few characters that's actually met independently all these scattered characters. So when, I mean, and he was very pivotal in that whole dragon pit scene when he was the one that brought the white in. So I do think that they will continue giving him a fairly significant role, but I think he will die saving Sansa, but not before he's killed his brother, which could happen at the same time. Who knows?
So we're kind of on the same path. I think that he's going to be super instrumental in taking down his brother. That's he can't move forward in his life if that situation is not dealt with. And I think that actually, I kind of made this prediction earlier. I think that Sandor is, and I think they're going to realize this, because when they're fighting him, they're going to realize that he's completely undead, and I mean, it's going to be so hard to deal with. I don't know if Daenerys will be part of this situation, but I think that Sandor and the group of Jaime, Brandon, they're going to win the Clegane Bowl. Somebody is going to get really badly injured or hurt. I think Sandor is going to burn the mountain's head off with wildfire, and then Jaime is going to choke out Cersei and kill Cersei. And I think that it's going to be absolutely bonkers. And it would be crazy. It would be kind of poetic because the Hound fears fire, but we saw, obviously, his interaction with Beric and Thoros, and he looked into the flames, and he had that vision. He's literally been kissed by fire right on his face. So I think there's a lot more in store for Sandor Clegane. And hopefully he survives, but I wouldn't be upset if he didn't, because I think that ultimately he will take down his brother, and that will ultimately lead to taking down Cersei Lannister and Arya or Jaime taking care of Cersei. So let's take some questions.
We're similar vein, aren't we?
And we got another donation from the chat, Gemma. Helen, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that donation, and all the donations from you guys today. I had a couple people donate to the GoFundMe. Super amazing. Thank you so much. Really, really helpful. I really, really appreciate it. All right, Gemma, let's take some questions. You finding anything interesting in the chat?
Where is it that I saw Kyle Dubs? I would like to see him use a fire sword to kill the mountain. Would it be cool if, like, off screen, Beric had taught the Hound how to do that? You know, just like in a scene that we didn't see, and then the Hound just sort of like whips this one out of his bag. All of a sudden, he can actually use fire as his weapon. I mean, obviously it's ironic, but it's also incredibly badass. I would like to see at least one more flaming sword before this series concludes.
Well, you know what's really interesting, Gemma? I just had a thought when you're speaking on this. Does Beric make it back to Winterfell? Maybe he gets badly injured, him and Tormund get back, and Beric is dying or something, and then he does that. He informs Sandor on how to do it, and Sandor's like, fuck that, I hate fire. And but like in that situation, and the White Walkers, boom, come in like right then and there. You know what I mean? Like Tormund and Beric get back there after, Daenerys and Samwell and all of them have kind of had their conference. Like the White Walkers are coming, but like the Night King comes like 10 minutes later or something, and they're like, whoa. And then Sandor's like, okay, tell me what you know. And like Beric dies, and then Sandor takes his sword or something. Because Sandor is going to be, like I said, either have a Valyrian steel blade, in my opinion, or he's going to use fire to try to protect the Stark Girls or kill the Mountain. So that's completely overcoming his fear.
Sorry. This is not a Sandor-related question, but it's an amazing question from It's Me Q&A. Do you think the Night King will personally kill any main characters? And if so, who? I mean, and we're talking about personally killing here.
Jeez, Gemma, you go first on this one. I need to marinate on this.
Please don't shoot me down for this, but I'd like to see him killing Dany.
That would be crazy, and then making him into a Night Queen.
It would be crazy. Or Cersei, to either of them to become his Night Queen, or even Melisandre. I mean, not because I hate any of those female characters, but because it would fit with the lore of what we've been looking at. And it would just be, can you imagine? It would just be a collective intake of breath moment.
Well, going on this, let's say Dany doesn't die in childbirth, which I think is the most likely scenario, which would really suck. She gets on a dragon after she gives birth to go. I mean, somebody else is going to take care of the child, like a Davos or a Missandei or something. Hypothetically, she's totally toast after that. If she delivers the child and she doesn't die, she's dying.
Yeah.
On that dragon, going to fight the Night King with Jon or something, and Jon is going to see that. Jon will see that happen. And that'll just crush him. Just like he happened with the Grit. Imagine the Night King shot a spear, just like he saw a Grit get, like that would just crush Jon. And Jon would go into beast mode, just like go kill the Night King after. But I mean, imagine that.
Beast mode.
And check this out, even more tinfoil. Let's say this happens all simultaneously. The Night King and Daenerys is starting to turn. Jon stabs her with Lightbringer to end her life or something like that. The Night King kills Jon kills the Night King, and then Jon has his final moment with Daenerys and has to literally kill his wife like Nissa, but that's to prevent her from turning into a White Walker. That's
the only way I can see that Jon actually ever drawing his blade on her.
Now
the other theories where he does it to fulfill some prophecy. I can't see that happening, but yeah, if it was a mercy, yes.
I could totally see that happening. But yeah, if she gives birth to a child and she survives, she's gonna die on like falling off a or like get mortally wounded or something. I don't think Daenerys survives the series, and I know a lot of people don't like that thought. A lot of people think, okay, well, Jon and Daenerys survive, but they're unhappy because all their friends are dead or something. That kind of situation can kind of go down, but I don't know. Let's do some more shout outs in the chat, Gemma, before we get to a couple questions. We got Smokahontas, we got Mia Ice and Fire again. Happy birthday. It's me. Nicole Huffman. Wesley. Wesley said, oh, he's crying in the chat. Don't cry, Wesley. Laura D. William Rice. Christina Schlegel. She's the one who put up what's that one quote of the really funny happy birthday earlier? You old bastard. It was the one, Jon Snow's bastard. The one you were laughing at. More questions. Now our chat is shifted to total tinfoil Night King theories. Totally away from Sandor Clegane. Let's take a couple more. We got 10 minutes more here. And by the way, we're all going live. We're not all going live. We are going live on Gemma's channel tomorrow to discuss Winds of Winter. I'm actually really excited about this, Gemma. You want to give kind of a little preview, I guess?
We've hammered season 8 predictions, haven't we? Over and over and over. Season 8 predictions, like to the point where we've kind of exhausted Season 8 predictions. So we want to look at the Winds of Winter, and I know it's a bit of a sore spot for a lot of people. A lot of people think it's already written and George is waiting for the series to finish. I'm not sure. But basically, we want to look at, and these will be initial predictions for the first quarter of the book, perhaps. Sort of broad overarching storylines, because obviously, as you know, these books are huge. So I think we're going to be looking at the North Remembers and the Grand Northern Conspiracy. We're going to be looking at
the Untitled Chapter and Isambaro and Arya. Yeah.
Euron Greyjoy and Victarion Greyjoy are going to be very interesting veins to follow. Stannis and the Battle of Winterfell, is that going to be a similar Battle of the Bastards kind of vein, but with Stannis instead of Jon? So yeah, basically we're looking at all of those kinds of things. So if you do have any questions specifically related to any of that or anything else speculation-wise for the Winds of Winter, the book, please drop us a line on social media, at Citadel Secrets on Twitter, Gemma Stark or Gemma Secrets on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram. So just tag either myself or Kyle, and we'll see if we can get your questions in that chat tomorrow.
And by the way, everyone, if you do want to reach out to me and Gemma, I put all of our social medias and Facebook and Twitter and all that in the description of this video. So if you do have a theory or something that you would like us to talk about on the podcast, we're always really open to suggestions. Actually, me and Gemma do polls on Patreon quite frequently for the podcast, especially for bonus content. We often let the patrons of the channel decide what we're going to talk about. We do a bonus podcast. Usually we try to do it at least 3 times a month, Gemma. We're pretty good about it, but sometimes we'll throw in an extra episode of the podcast or something like that. But if you do have any questions or something that you would like us to discuss, we're always really open to interesting ideas and new things to talk about. Let's get to another Smokahontas. Thanks for joining.
J.R. Rowley had one.
J.R. Rowley, yeah. So you want to talk about that one, Gemma? Sanson happened.
Will Sansan happen? For anybody that's not familiar, which I can't imagine it would be many, Sansan is the theory that Sansa and Sandor are going to hook up, and because there's been a lot of kind of sort of reversed romance tropes going on with that relationship. For me, no, that's never going to happen. I've seen the fan art. It's interesting, but no, that's not something I can see happening. What about you, Kyle?
No.
Just no.
Although I mean, Sandor's love for the Stark girls is more. It's like a
brotherly.
Brother. Yeah, it's more brotherly. Yeah. It's more sibling-like. I just would. I mean, that would be super creepy. He's like twice Sansa's age, man.
It really would.
Like, even more than that. That's kind of gross.
Yes, yeah, you are right. Sandor did cloak her first. Yes, but again, for me, that was more of a protection kind of thing. I don't want to see that.
No, and I don't think it's necessary. Like, I mean, after all that Sansa's endured, I think she's more likely to end up with Tyrion. I mean, Tyrion said that he would never hurt her. I think that's the most likely scenario for Sansa. But yeah, let's take one more question before we go here. We got to scroll up here. I'm trying to find a really good one. Ooh, here's another one from It's Me. It says, could Bran's vision of the dragon above King's Landing be Dany flying Drogon into the dragon pit meeting? Was that what was going on?
Could be who riding Drogon?
Dany.
Oh, Dany. No, I think, well, maybe, possibly. For me, I think all of those visions were directly linked with something that Bran has specifically done or is going to do. And I think that dragon is Bran walked into the dragon. The one that flies over King's Landing.
Yeah, I could see a situation where they're getting the crap kicked out of them at Winterfell, for better terms, by the Night King, and they have to flee south, and Bran, his physical body dies and he ends up in like Rhaegal or something. I mean, that would be kind of sad, but I mean, that'd be a pretty darn good second life. But yeah, I could see something like that happening. But a little bit of a spoiler alert. It seems like some of our main characters were filming in King's Landing. I'm not going to say their names, but I'll just leave that out there, and possibly that what you talked about could
Yeah.
possibly happen. So Gemma, that's going to do it for today. It was really fun doing a stream on my birthday.
Yeah,
You.
you enjoy the rest of your birthday, Kyle. I can't believe you're 22. It must be really weird for
Yeah,
you.
you are now in my good books again. I've actually turned 32 today, everyone. Thank you so much for all the birthday wishes. I haven't got a chance to reply to every single one on Facebook and whatnot, but we really, really appreciate that. But tomorrow we will be on Gemma's channel. We will be talking about the Winds of Winter. Really excited about that. Gemma, what's coming up next for you on your channel?
I'm working on a lot of unravelings behind the scene. I know a lot of people whinge, they whinge at me, they want more unravelings. But what I tend to do is I will write about 6 at the same time, because I don't want to just do one chapter in isolation. Of course, they all tie in with each other, and I need to be able to reflect backwards and forwards when I'm doing these. So this is why I have these periods where there'll be no chapter unraveling, and then there'll be a flurry of chapter unraveling. So you can expect a flurry coming very soon, because I'm a lot further ahead than the uploads on my channel right now. But essentially that's been the crux of what I've been concentrating on. I've just about finished narrating the Ice Dragon for my Patreons. I've got 2 chapters of that left, and then they want me to narrate the entirety of the Night of the Seven Kingdoms for them. Okay, that's going to take a while, because those chapters are long, a lot longer than the Ice Dragon.
Gemma could straight up do an ASMR channel. I think that she would have so many patrons. That would be nuts. Gemma, so you can find all the links to Gemma's Twitter, Patreon, all of that in the description of this video, of course. Gemma, thank you so much for joining me. There's a few things that I need to talk about before we go. I got an announcement. There's going to be a new podcast with me and King McKay. We're calling it the Odin's Eye Podcast. And I've talked a long time about doing different content and kind of branching out a little bit. And me and King McKay are going to do a Vikings podcast. I absolutely love the show. And we decided on the Odin's Eye because Odin is the all-father. He sees all. We're going to try to shed light on a lot of the Vikings history, the real Vikings history, and kind of relate it into the characters in the show and kind of try to make some predictions about that. I know some of you watch Vikings, so that's coming. I actually got an Ivar, the boneless video I'm dropping on Saturday. Tomorrow, I got an Ant-Man video after I'm going to watch it tonight, dropping. I know a lot of you want to see more Marvel stuff. And I got a Mad Queen Cersei video coming up for you soon as well. So lots of that coming. If you do want to support the channel, you can find the Patreon in the link at the description of this video. Me and Gemma will be doing a bonus podcast tomorrow after her stream, and then we'll be uploading it that sometime on the weekend, I guess. Gemma, probably like Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
And we'll figure that out for you guys. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I had an absolute blast. So did Gemma. And I'm going to sign out today. This is my birthday. Hype and love.
Bye.